Hi all, here we are again on a Monday, and it's been an extremely interesting weekend for me. On a positive note, I had one telephone call, and I have to share it with you. A woman who had been on the program about a year and a half ago called up and said, "Dr. Schwartz, when are you opening your offices? I'm going crazy." And I said, "What do you mean when you say you're going crazy?" She said, "Do you remember when you went to college? Well, when I went to college, they called it in the first year semester 1, 15, meaning freshman 15. She said, I have COVID 15 plus." Well, what we're going to talk about today is all of the extra stresses and pressures that we have to deal with because of our isolationism and everything going along with it. Plus some conversations that I had with patients, which I think are very, very important. And now that I can read, I'm learning how to do this. Hi, Doc Gabby. Gabby is still not home, but there's an emoji with a smile on it, so I'm smiling back at her. One of the biggest issues that we have to deal with, every single one of you is an adult. Every single one of you has decided that your body is not in the shape that you want it to be, and you've undertaken a journey with AccuWeight. But any journey recognizes that the road is not straight, that there are detours, that there are pit stops, and there are other issues, accidents, and we have to make decisions with regard to that. I want to first look at each and every one of you and ask you to step back and hear this next statement. We need to get rid of good and bad. More and more, "Dr. Schwartz, I'm so upset, I'm ashamed with myself, I feel guilty," and it goes on and on and on. And it's habitual. These words, good and bad, are irrelevant for us in the journey we are taking. I'm not certain how many times we have talked about loving yourself. And I've changed the perception of loving yourself, not the meaning, because I find that many people, on a personal level, don't understand that loving yourself has to do with the fact that you spend more time alone with yourself pretty much every single day than you spend with any other human being. Now, if you are going to spend time with yourself and you're judging good, bad, etc., after a while, you're going to question that level of communication that's so necessary to lead a comfortable and a meaningful life. Because judgment becomes the issue. We're living in a world now which is turned upside down. And that just adds to the pressure and stress. But if you love yourself, it makes it easier. So let me give you today's example of what I mean by loving myself. There are two facets that I personally am thinking about. One is the fact, and we've talked about it umpteen times, the adult me and the child me. And I like the adult me and the child me because at least I have company and someone to talk to. I try very hard to remember all the time that I am the adult and he is the child. He is only he. I wonder sometimes if he has any understanding that he's really a child. And remember, I've told you that he's only 5 years old because basic personality and character are formed by age 5. So here I am having a conversation with a 5-year-old. And he sees this cake. And he's excited because he knows if he eats the cake, and remember, he is really part of me. So when he thinks, I'm thinking, he's thinking, you can't separate it out. How good it will taste to have the cake. And I'm stressed. I got all this stuff going on. And he's saying to me, eat the cake. And I'm saying, don't bother me. I'm busy. And he says, eat the cake. And I say no. And he has a temper tantrum. Why? Number one, he's only 5 years old. 2, he's only a kid. 3, he has no understanding of consequences. Because when he is done with his thing, he's done. And I had telephone calls with adults, mostly women, who felt guilty about indulging to some extent, and they were left with the residue, the residual. Now, losing weight is a journey, and if we don't learn along the period of time that we're on the journey, then the journey will be for naught. I'm going to sidetrack for a moment with a story, true story, I promise you, very fast. Years ago, when I was a head counselor in a camp, and one of the things that I did was send these groups of children on a trip, walking trip, to the closest town and back again. They were excited, and off they went. After several hours, they returned. And they came up to me and said how great the trip was, and they had made it in back and forth in an hour and 45 minutes. And the excitement was palpable. You could really feel it. And I said, cool it. I may not have said cool it. Today I remember saying cool it. I said, cool it. Help me understand. You went through the forest. It took you about 40 minutes to go through the forest and 40 minutes back. Plus you did stuff while you were in town. While you were in the forest, what did you experience? I got these blank stares, these strange looks, and obviously, at least to me, the question was, hey Doc, what are you talking about? And so I said, I'm sending you back tomorrow. Through the forest, into town, back again. Only this time, I'm giving you a challenge. And the challenge is, tell me all of the different things and circumstances that occurred while you were going through the forest. The following day, we did that, and I held a campfire that evening. And the discussion that I had with them is, help me understand what you experienced both ways in the forest. I had an absolutely incredible time. These kids didn't shut up. This one was saying this, and this one's, oh yes, I did this, and what they had experienced made an impression on them that if we, along our journey, can do the same thing, then having to do AccuWeight as a weight loss program will no longer be the issue. Because what you will experience is going to teach you the kinds of things that you need to do based upon your own personal experience. And if it's based upon your own personal experience, you have a feeling for it. Hi, Rita. And if you have a feeling for it, you're going to incorporate it into your own being. I spend a great deal of time in the car. I often drive from office to office. And I generally spend about 2 hours a day in the car. I got fed up with listening to the news, and please forgive me, one of the lacks that I have is I cannot clearly understand tone. And so music does not excite me the way it excites most people. There was only 1 year in my life where popular music was important, and that was my freshman year in college. I was dating this young woman, and she loved popular music, and so I would listen to the radio, and I would pick up. I was dancing with my darling to the Tennessee Waltz. That was the era. And we broke up, and part of the reason we broke up is I personally could not invest all of the time and energy that it took to listen to this music, to incorporate it and be able to deal with this young woman. I don't know if it was my loss or her loss, but as most of you know, my present wife has been my partner for 63 years. And she accepts my tone deafness. And when we go to weddings and other, I have learned how to foxtrot. And so, and I learned, but I can do the rumba. But you can't talk to me when I do the rumba or the cha-cha, because I have to count in my head. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And if I count, you can't talk because I lose count and I step on your foot. Now, the trip through the forest should have been followed up, but it was not part of the concept of summer camp. But had it been followed up, the awareness of the world around them, meaning the awareness of the world around you and how food affects you, is altered, and how you deal with that effect becomes the key. If we are judgmental, then we're not in a learning situation. I was judgmental when I said I'm not dating this girl because of the fact that emotionally I was not getting sustenance from the music. I was attracted to her. I wanted her to be in my life and me in her life. But the cost was too heavy. And so I determined that if this is how it was going to be, it was not for me. Now, I can take drugs out of your life. I can take alcohol out of your life. I cannot take food out of your life. And most of you, and I used to be one of those, felt comfort and escape when I was under pressure, and I used food to comfort me. It became a habit. Now, who is to say, except me, whether my behavior is appropriate? It's It's based upon what do I want? What do you want? Why are you doing AccuWeight? Why are you dieting? And the answer is you want something. If you're focused on all the peripheral kinds of things, it's not going to happen. And one of the things that I need to help you know is when the screen slows down, as it is now, remember, sound travels faster than light. And there will be, I believe, interruptions in my moving, my body, my head, that may not coordinate with the sound. So, step number 1. Loving yourself means recognizing that you are in control, you are making choices, and that there is a part of you that is focused totally on your feeling good. When you are angry, when you are frustrated, when you are bored, when you are upset, when you are annoyed, when you are scared, these emotions are uncomfortable. And in the past, you've used food to comfort yourself against these pressures. If you were happy with that, then we would not be talking. Over the weekend, I had many calls. Saturday night and Sunday, many calls. Most of them were women who were concerned because they felt badly and guilty and did, many of them, indulge. This is point number 2. What is there about your present existence that prevents you from forgiving yourself? My child acts out. I punish my child in some way, set an example, because the child, from my point of view, behaved inappropriately. Sometimes I was even frustrated. Sometimes the child turned a deaf ear to me. Do I stop loving my child who is acting like a child. And remember, only 5 years old. You know the answer. Of course not. I love that child. And I'm going to try to educate that child. That education requires communication. Yes, you have to communicate with your child self, regardless of whether the child likes what you are saying. All of you had parents. How you perceive them varies based upon the behavior. But the only time in all the years as both a psychologist and as a weight loss consultant did people come in and say to me, I do not love my parents. The level had to do with the amount of pain in that relationship. But it didn't minimize the power of the parent. You are the parent. Your child self is the child. You have to talk to that child. You have to communicate with that child. And if you accept the fact that that child loves you unconditionally, then it's easier to forgive the child, and it enables you to forgive yourself for your indulgences. I believe that what you send out into the universe attracts like. Did you ever stop to think that no matter where you go in this world, no matter where you go, a male and a female can get together and produce an offspring? We are all human beings. we get caught up in differences. There are many cultures, and they are different because they are strange to us. If I live in a culture for a long period of time, I will take upon me much of that culture. I want you to build a culture of taking care of yourself, being in charge, and using that to develop an attitude and a behavior related to food. The only thing that counts is that your behavior is acknowledged by you to be your choice. And no matter what the choice is, you will continue it as long that it's good for you. What does that mean? It works. On the other side, if the behavior does not give you comfort, not for a short period of time, but comfort, then change the behavior. That's what the magic protocol is there for. That's what the discussion going through the forest was there for. By the way, I went back the following year. Many of the children had been with me the year before. They asked me to repeat, and I sent them on an overnight near West Point in New York. And when they returned, we held that campfire all over again. It must have made an impression because it was a year later, and the enthusiasm for talking about the challenge of discovery made them go well into late evening and postponed their bedtime, and not because they didn't want to go to bed. They wanted to consider what they were getting out of, how it felt to have that discussion. If you have accumulated the freshman COVID-15 evacuate will take it off. But remember, you're the boss. Now, I didn't see that before, Rita. It's her, the wow, not me. Rita mentioned 63 years. And by the way, my mother introduced us. I want to go to some questions. Hi, Deb. I have a list of questions here. I am on a milk day. I am craving something crunchy. What can I have? And by the way, before I answer that question, you can post questions online. They will come up on my video. Question: what can I have on a milk day that is crunchy? Here's what I recommend. Get some sugarless candy. Even Tic Tacs will do. Put them in a plastic bag and mash them up. Pour them into the yogurt and you'll have a crunchy, flavorful yogurt. Stay on the program and enjoy yourself. These are the kinds of things that we should be talking about. How to make it better. Next question. I am stuck in the house with my family with a pantry full of junk food. In my head, I was saying, let me check out the junk food. I may be coming to your house. But that was just the old man in me talking, because he and the child are getting closer together and I have to deal with both of them. He has no filter, and so I have to be aware and control him as well. The key to junk food is part of the magic protocol methodology. Our habit is to have something to minimize the stress, the pressure that we feel. For many of you, a milk day is boring. All there is milk. And we lose sight of the fact as to why we're doing it. because the stress clouds our thinking. The reason you are doing it is because you want to change the shape and functioning of your body. And if you are honest, you will admit that you want the indulgence, but that you want the weight loss more than you want the indulgence. And that's the reason for using the magic protocol. The adult in you says, I love you so much that I'm going to talk to you and use the magic protocol to get me what will really make me happy, and that is to lose all the weight that I've set out to lose. I've also told you many times that the look on people's faces when they reach their goal is incredible. Most of them actually glow. Next question. I am on a milk day, and I drank my water, and I'm feeling hungry. What can I do?
Hello, please leave a message after the tone.
If you heard, I'm in the man cave, and the phones are still ringing, and that person decided not to leave a message. The problem on a milk day is to recognize that milk contains a lot of water. So that, number one, we are not thirsty. Number two, depending upon how many times you've gone to the bathroom, you may have become deficient in electrolytes. My recommendation is to drink a little bit every hour and to have at least 2 cups separated each day, especially on a dairy day, of the red rooibos tea to replace the electrolytes and to stabilize what's going on with your body. Next question. I just cannot get all my water in. What do you recommend I do? Generally speaking, a little bit of water every hour will actually suffice. The biggest area of problem that I encounter are medical people who have long surgeries or people who have jobs where they cannot easily go to the bathroom. If you drink a lot of water, most of it will run right through you and will not be absorbed. If you drink a moderate amount of water, as best you can on intervals, the problem with water will go away. You will not be hungry, and you'll feel really good. Next question. My weight is at a standstill for 4 days. Is that normal? First, my answer. There is no normal, but one. The only normal is if you do the program the way it's prescribed every single month, you will lose a minimum of 15 pounds, only fat in total health. None of you have ever heard me say anything different. Now to the question. For that person, it may be normal. I had a very heavy patient 2 weeks ago. In the first week, they lost 17 pounds. In the second week, they lost 2.5 pounds and complained. Here was my answer. You succeeded in losing the 15 in your first week. Therefore, I am making you a new promise of an additional 15 in the subsequent month. Notice, there is no week-to-week normality. 15 pounds, only fat, every month, as long as you adhere to the program. Next question. I love to drink coffee. Can it count as my water? Answer, no. Let me explain. The darker the liquid, it has to be first cleansed. And so the darker the liquid, the less hydrating it is. Coffee is not either good or bad for you. If you drink black coffee, it not only acts as, to some extent, a diuretic, but it has to be cleansed, and therefore it's not counted as part of your water. Here's an interesting question. Can I do the program for 4 weeks and take off 2 weeks and then start again? Here is my answer. It's a qualified yes. AccuWeight loss is either working or it's not working. That person did the program for a month, 4 weeks, and said, I want to take a break. Fine. However, the period of time between the break and starting up again has to be dealt with meaningfully. You need to speak with your consultant, or me, if I am your consultant, or not, and create a temporary lifestyle to address the gap between the 4 weeks and starting again. But it's not starting again, it's continuing then. Your behavior, you're responsible, and you can do it if you care enough about yourself to take control. Next question. I have a late night one day this week and will not be able to eat until 7:30. Their hours are 12 to 6. If they feel it is absolutely necessary to eat late that night, and if you make it a practice, it will create a problem. 2 choices. 1, just let it go and do not eat after 7:30. Or 2, have a hard-boiled egg. I hope that I have communicated with you this evening. talking it through educates us, teaches us, and makes us the more and more that we wish to become by changing the quality of our lifestyle and by merging our child self, our adult self, and our yet to be three-legged self. Remember the analogy. Crawls, walks on two legs, walks on three legs. I thank you all for listening. I await your questions, should you have them. drs@accuweight.com. Call me anytime. Ask me to communicate with you. It will be my pleasure. Good night. Good night.